You're now listening to the official B Podcast, Business Elite Entrepreneurs. Business Elite Entrepreneurs. Where you'll be getting proven tips and strategies from professionals on business, motivation, and mindset. Everything you'll need to get started right now. And now your host, serial entrepreneur, real estate investor, Will Galloway.
Thank y'all so much for being here. You are here at the B Podcast, Business Elite Entrepreneurs. Episode 2 is finally here. I'm just so excited. I want to give a shout out to everybody who took the time to look at episode 1. Man, that was a great episode. I'm just so grateful that I finally got this podcast out here. And it is, I got a lot of great reviews off episode 1. So if you haven't seen episode 1, make sure you go check it out. But today we got a treat. We got another episode 2. I mean, it's been less than a week and I'm already at episode 2. I'm really taking this serious and I really want to go hard because I'm super passionate about, mindset. I'm super passionate about entrepreneurship. And this podcast, again, like I said on episode 1, is geared toward trying to get everybody prepared to become the better versions of themselves. And with episode 2, the title of episode 2 is You versus You. Let me say that again. Episode 2, the title is You versus You. And I know a lot of you wondering, like, what is you versus you? Like, what do you mean by you versus you? Well, first and foremost, I think that if I start a podcast talking about entrepreneurship, I would do you guys a disservice if I did not go over one of my strengths. One of the things that has changed my life is the mindset, the mental. So this episode is going to be more geared toward the mental, because I feel like it would, like I said, it would do you a very disservice if I go into, how to start a LLC or how to start a business or what type of businesses should you start without telling you the foundational part, which is the mental, the mindset. And this is one of the things that I had to go through earlier in my career. Like I told you in episode 1, I gave you my stories, and I'm going to do a little recap of my stories and kind of relate it to how you versus you translate. So when I think about when I wake up in the morning and you wake up in the morning, first thing you do is, of course, I know me, I go to the bathroom. And when I go to the bathroom and I turn the light on, the first thing that I see in the mirror is myself. That's the first thing I see in the mirror is myself. So that lets me know that when I see myself, that lets me know that, hey, it's me against the world. You know what I'm saying? It's me against the world. It's time to, call out the elephant in the room. You know what I'm saying? It's really you. So when you look yourself in the mirror every single day, you have the ability to be great. You have the ability to take anything, whether it's a business, whether it's your family, whether it's your finances, you have the ability to take everything to the next level. So you versus you, meaning there's no competition. When you think about Superman, one of Superman's weaknesses was kryptonite. I think a lot of you feel that other people is your kryptonite. A lot of you feel that maybe your past or maybe how you grew up or maybe, your environment to a certain extent could be your kryptonite. And, all of that may have a certain extent, maybe played some part in being your kryptonite. But I honestly feel that you are your own kryptonite. I feel that you are the only person that can dictate, your A to B to C, so once you get that in your mind and understand that you have to get you together first, you have to get yourself into a place where you can thrive and you succeed. Can't nobody, stop your destiny but God, so you have to understand, let's first and foremost understand that you are your kryptonite. So again, when you look yourself in the mirror, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and almost tell yourself that you are great. Tell yourself that you are powerful. Tell yourself that, you're the best thing since sliced bread, and that's the only way that you will get to understand, like your inner powers and what are you actually good at and what is your actual why and what is your purpose. You have to find that within. Can't nobody tell you what your purpose is. Can't nobody tell you what your why is. That has to be within you. But again, you have to go back to that mirror and you have to look yourself in your eyes in that mirror and look yourself and challenge yourself and say, you know what? I'm ready to take on this journey. I'm going to recap my story a little bit. So I told y'all in episode 1 that, when I, one of the first things that I did, I got into real estate back in '07. And then, I sold a property, barely sold it, made a lot of mistakes. I ain't gonna, tell the whole story. And then I switched over from that and I got out of real estate, and then I invested all of that money and plus a little other money that I had saved up, and I got into the nightclub business, right? So when I got into the nightclub business, that lasted from 2008 all the way into 2010. So in 2 years it took that business to fail, but that business had already failed when it started. And I didn't notice, and the reason why I didn't notice is because guess what, guys? I still didn't know the real me. I still didn't know what my real purpose and why was. See, I was starting a business based on what I wanted to do. But see, when I got saved and I got closer to God, I learned that I have to find what is it that I'm actually anointed to do and what am I blessed to be able to do on this earth. So the nightclub business, I learned a lot, and it helped me in a lot of things. Or even today, it helped me in a lot of my business decisions, and I learned so many things from that business. But when that business failed, that was the first time, like I talked about, I was in the depression state. I was in the depression state, meaning that I didn't have no income coming in. This was the first time that I didn't have any income coming in, and I had to fend for myself, and I had to depend on others. And I know as a man, that's one of the worst, predicaments to be in, is when you have to depend on maybe your woman or your mom or your dad or your family members, and that was me. I was that person. I had to depend on family because, again, I didn't have no income coming in. So what did I have to do? Well, once I had closed the business down, I had to reevaluate myself. Of course, I had to get a spiritual relationship with God. I had to get closer to God because I found that I was lost. Anytime when you in a state of depression, or anytime you're in a state of not understanding who you are and what are you on this earth to do and be, then that's when you have to look yourself in the mirror, like I said earlier, and you have to know that it's you versus you. So that's what I had to do, guys. I had to look myself in the mirror, and I looked myself in the mirror one day after crying tears. And I said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. It's time to, find out what am I here to do. I had to find out what my purpose is. So one of the things I had to focus on was, besides getting a relationship with God, which that definitely helped point me in the right direction, there was a few things that I had to figure out. There was a few things that I had to iron out. So one, I had to understand that when you're in the depression state and you're trying to figure things out, that is a lack of confidence. So that's one of the first things I had to do. I had to build my confidence. I had to find the inner me. I had to understand that, hey, can't nobody change my life. Can't nobody, make my life better. But I have to take responsibility for my life, and I had to get my life back. I had to get my life back. So in order to get my life back, I had to build the confidence to build my life, to get my life back. So in order to build my confidence, first and foremost, going back to you versus you, I had to find some me time in order to find me. So what I had to do was, first I had to remove myself from the environments that I was in, whether that was old friends, whether that was places and things that I was surrounding myself around. I had to disassociate myself, and I had to reevaluate all of that stuff and find time for myself, find time for me. And it's not doing it in a selfish way, but how can I be better for my peers if I'm not better for myself? So it's not that you're leaving anybody. It's not that you're like saying you're better than anybody, or, I don't want to be around y'all. It's not that. It's just, you can't be better for nobody else until you be better for yourself first and foremost. So I had to understand that, and I had to respect that, so while I was praying for that, I was praying for God to switch relationships, change, environments, and do all of that stuff. And I found myself still, while I was building confidence, I found myself still trying to fight for relationships that he was trying to take away from me. And as I'm trying to fight to keep those relationships and he trying to push those relationships away, it started dawning on me like, you know what? This is all in the works. This is all was supposed to happen anyway. So as I'm trying to build my confidence, one of the things that I was doing on a daily basis was I was speaking affirmations. I was speaking life into myself, because before that I had never, wasn't into the, law of attraction. I wasn't into, building my confidence, speaking things into existence, believing, I wasn't into all that. I thought it was just hocus pocus, but I can honestly say that those things really, really, really help me, because what happens is your brain is like a sponge. So what happens when a sponge gets wet? It soaks in all of the water and it holds it in and it swells up. So your brain is the same way. So as you're telling yourself you're great, you're powerful, you're all these great things, your brain is like that sponge. It's soaking all of it in. And even if you're not great at that moment, even if you're in lack at that moment, even if you're a failure at that moment, as long as you, going back to you versus you, as long as you psychologically keep telling yourself these great things about yourself, that sponge, it swells. Just like a sponge when it gets wet, it swells. So your mind is swelling. Your subconscious start really saying, you know what? Currently, I might be in a failure state, but for some reason, you keep telling you that you are great. You keep telling you that you are powerful. You keep telling you that you are amazing. You are a millionaire. You are all these great things. So as you keep telling you these great things, now all of a sudden your mind start believing it. Now all of a sudden what happens is, once your mind start believing it, now your mind can receive all the blessings and all the great things that's already really in store for you. It's already set for your life, but you can't get it until your mind and your mental state and your subconscious start really believing that these things are true. That's why I said I had a lack of confidence, because I didn't believe none of those things were true. I didn't think I was great. I thought I was just a hustler. I just thought I was just a no good person. I just thought that all these bad things that I did in my past, I was living in my past. I still define myself in my past. And your past is what it is. It's your past. That's why I always tell people, like, don't look back, look forward. If you look back at your past, then you're going to stay in your past. As long as you moving forward and you looking straight ahead, your past is irrelevant. So I had to understand that, like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes in my past. Yeah, I did a lot of, somewhat horrible things in my past. But God had already told me I'm forgiven. He had already told me that you are going to be great. You're going to be powerful. You're going to, you're going to inspire thousands and millions of people. And I said, nah, not me. Like, what are you talking about? That's what I'm telling myself. But again, it goes back to you versus you, because you're playing a mental battle with yourself. One side of your mind is telling you, man, you still that person you used to be. Man, don't nobody think you could be great. Man, you ain't never been great. You always just been this. You always been that. But then when you start building your confidence, you start speaking life into yourself. You start speaking these affirmations. Then the other side, the spirituality start telling you, no, you are great. That past, that's the past. You are going to be great. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be awesome. You're going to be amazing. You're going to change people's lives. And once you find what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to help other people be great in that same area. So I never knew that was going to be possible. I never knew that those things were going to happen. So I just wanted to address the you versus you part, and why, that's so important, with, trying to get your mindset right, because it's all mental, guys. It's all mental. And, I know I talked about, your environment, and I know some of you, which I see a lot of my friends, and they always talk to me about, like, man, how are you doing what you're doing? Or just people in my past, they always talk about, how are you doing what you're doing? And I tell them this story that I just told you guys. And a lot of people find it hard to remove themselves from certain environments. They want to be around people that are still doing the same thing that they were doing 10 years ago. And I'm not saying it to knock anybody. I'm not saying that like I'm better than anybody. I'm not saying that. But in order to be great, you got to surround yourself around greatness. That's just point blank. You have to understand that there's certain people that you have to disassociate yourself with until you get better, until you get mentally better. There's certain people that was only in your life for a season, not for a lifetime. Let me say that again. There's certain people that's in your life for a season and not a lifetime. Maybe they was supposed to be with you in the summertime, but when the fall and the winter time came, that season's changed. That person don't supposed to be there anymore. And you have to be okay with that. Another thing you have to be okay with, which one of the things that I did was, in the midst of me trying to understand that it's you versus you, it's me versus me, no competition, nobody else, not my mama, not my daddy, not my wife, not my brother, my sister, nobody. It's me versus me. So when I had to understand that, I understood how does that work? I understood that first and foremost, it's my time, right? It's my time. And I think all of you that's listening right now, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And before you get into all those affirmations, you have to say, it's my time. It's my time to shine. It's my time. So again, disassociate yourself, change your environment. And let me tell you why changing your environment again and disassociating yourself is so important. Let me give you an example, right? So when you think about a fish, or and you think about putting a fish, like they got these certain fish, right? That you put them in an aquarium, and in the aquarium, the fish will grow within that aquarium size, right? I think they got the little small sharks, or certain, I forgot the name of those fish that be growing big. But when you think about putting that fish in a tank, right? That fish is only going to grow the size of that aquarium. Let's just say we put that little fish in like an aquarium, maybe about this size right here, right? Not even that big. Do you think now if you feed that fish and you continue to use that fish as a pet, that fish is going to stay alive. The fish is not going to die because it's in a small tank. But let me ask you a question. Do you honestly think that as that fish is growing and getting bigger, do you honestly think that fish is going to get so big that it cracks the tank and say, okay, now it's time for a new tank? What's going to happen? The fish is going to stay within that tank. The fish is going to stay within that box. Whatever the size of that aquarium is, whatever the size of that tank is, the fish is not going to grow no bigger than it, and it's not going to explode that tank. Why? Because environments dictate you, right? So if you're that fish that's in that small aquarium and you may feel like you're growing, but you're really not growing because the tank is still keeping you the size of the tank. Now, if you take that same fish and you put them maybe in the ocean somewhere, or maybe in a big lake, that fish is going to grow as big as that species of a fish can grow, right? So you're the same way. If you put yourself in a small aquarium or in a small box, you're not going to outgrow that tank or that box. But if you put yourself around winners, people who are supporters, people who love you, people who are men and women of God, guess what's going to happen? You're going to outgrow that tank. You're going to outgrow that box, because guess what? You shifted your environment. You shifted away from certain personalities, certain people that don't mean you any good. Another thing that I want to touch on real quick, when you're talking about you versus you, and I'm speaking on myself right now, because I want you guys to kind of pick up my journey. Like I talked about in podcast 1, I don't want to just talk about the good stuff without talking about the process. I don't want to talk about the good stuff without talking about what you have to go through, because a lot of times, again, y'all see the glory, but y'all really don't understand and know the story, so I like to talk about the story, because I want, when we start talking about business, when we start talking about real estate, when we start talking about all these things that I've been successful in, it'll make sense. If I jump into it right now, episode 2, maybe even episode 3, it's going to go over y'all head, because you haven't even got the foundational part right, which is the mind. So one of the other things that I had to do, guys, was as I was building my confidence, I had to reinvent myself. Let me say that again. I had to reinvent myself. So reinvent yourself can mean all kind of things. It can mean, you know what? You could say, I'm a reinvent myself, meaning that, and what I meant by reinvent myself is I didn't want to live or be the person that I was 5-10 years ago. So at that point, when I looked myself in the mirror, guys, and I said, now it's my time to shine. Now it's time for me to find my purpose and my why. One of the first things I had to do was I had to say, you know what? If I'm going to become a new person, if I'm going to become a new me, first thing I need to do is I need to look at myself 5-10 years ago and understand that I cannot be that same person. So if I'm not going to be that same person, what has to change? What has to change? So some of the things that have to change is, first and foremost, I have to change my habits. We talked about mindset already. We talked about, environments and disassociating yourself with certain people. We talked about all that stuff. So I wanted to change everything about myself. I wanted to reinvent myself for a good reason. It went as far as like years before I made that decision. A lot of people know me from my past. Like I had dreadlocks in my head. I was growing my locks for like 13, 14 years before I cut them. So once I realized that I was finna become this new person and I was finna become a new me and I was finna go into this entrepreneurship journey, I said, okay, the locks gotta go. The locks gotta go. So now it's time for me to change my outer appearance while I'm still working on my inner self. So as I'm building my confidence, speaking affirmations, I'm building my inner self. I said I need to go not only just a change on the inside, I need to change on the outside, because when people see me, I don't want them to be reminded of me 5-10 years ago. I don't want them to be reminded of that. So I was okay with changing my outer appearance. Change your outer appearance. It might, I ain't saying, do nothing drastic, but something is like cutting my hair and getting a low haircut. And the low haircut went to, of course, eventually a bald head. So that was one part of me changing myself. Maybe the way I used to dress, maybe I had to understand that, if I'm going to get into real estate or I'm going to get into business, maybe I had to, change the way I dress. I ain't saying I got to wear a suit because I'm not a suit type of guy, but I want to dress, a little casual, maybe business casual, maybe, sometimes I, dress down a little bit, but I had to be okay with that because I was only used to dressing one way. Another thing I had to do was I had to talk differently, because when you get in certain rooms and you get around certain people, like that slang talk, all that, that rah-rah talk, that stuff don't get you nowhere, because people start, prejudging you even when you don't need to be judged. So I had to change my outer appearance. I had to change my inner self with, speaking life into myself. And then, and again, I had to understand that it's my time. It's my time to shine, guys. So you have to understand that it's your time, and the time is now. The time is not tomorrow. The time is not tomorrow, guys. You have to be okay with getting your mindset to an all-time high. Getting your mindset to an all-time high is going to take a lot of discipline. And discipline is not easy. But would you want to live with discipline, or would you want to live with regrets? I know a lot of people that, not here today, or maybe on their dying bed, and they're living with regrets. Don't live with regrets, guys. Don't live with regrets. Another thing I want you to do before we end this episode is I want you to balance out your time. Let me say that again. I want you to balance out your time, right? So what I mean by balancing out your time is you have to look at, this is some of the things me and my partner Tim tell people, when they want to get mentorship from us or they want to get coaching from us in real estate. One of the first things we tell them to do is we tell them to come up with a timesheet. Come up with a timesheet of your day, right? So when you come up with a timesheet of your day, we tell them from the time they wake up in the morning, whether that's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time that is, to the time you go to bed, write down everything that you do, right? So when you write down everything you do, I'm talking about get really, really, really like write down everything. I'm talking about write down when you wake up, do you pray, do you meditate, do you speak affirmations, what time you take the kids to school, what time you go to work, what time you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, what time you pick the kids back up. I mean, get really, really detailed, right? And as you're getting detailed with your life on a day-to-day basis, because when people come to us about real estate, first and foremost, one of the first things we ask them is how much time do you have to invest into the business? If you don't have a minimum of 2 to 4 hours per day, I ain't talking about per week. I'm not talking about per week. I'm talking about, not per week or not per month. I'm talking about per day. You got to have a minimum of 2 to 4 hours to commit toward the business, whatever business it is. We just speaking about real estate because these are people that we having conversations with. So we tell them, if you don't have 2 to 4 hours per day to dedicate toward real estate, then this is not for you, because this business is going to need you. This business is going to need your time. So if you don't have that to commit, then maybe you need to seek something else, or maybe you need to stay on your 9 to 5. This is just not for you. In order to be successful, I'm not saying you can't close a deal. I'm not saying you can't even get some sort of success, but it won't be consistent. It'll come and it'll be gone. So same thing with yourself, you're balancing your mental, right? Balance your mental, meaning when you look at that timesheet and you write down everything that you do from a day-to-day basis, how much time is you look at all of the activities that you're doing, how much time are you giving towards your mental? And what I mean by that is, how much time are you giving toward becoming better? How much time are you giving toward, becoming the best version of yourself? And then you write that list down, right? And then on the other side of that, at the top, put down entertainment. And then you look at how much entertainment are you taking in per day? Entertainment can be how much TV is you watching a day? How many hours are you spending on IG and Facebook, TikTok, all that, social media platforms? How much time are you gossiping? Talking on the phone with people, and it's not about business, it's not about bettering yourself. You're talking about the next person. You gossiping about somebody. You're talking about something that's not related to making you better. And you write all these things down. And mental and spiritual should be on one side. Mental meaning anything mindset related, podcasts, books, all that stuff should be mental. Spiritual should be church, Bible studies, reading the Bible, anything that's going to better yourself spiritually, right? Those two on the same side. And then entertainment is on its whole other side. Entertainment should never have more time than mental and spiritual. That's what I mean by the balance that has to be there. So if you look at that timesheet and you notice, and you got to be real with yourself to make sure this is right. If you see that you're spending 7 to 8 hours in entertainment with TV, social media, gossiping, anything you can think of that's not productive. If you got 8 hours of that and you got 3 hours of mental and spiritual, then how are you going to get to the next level? How do you feel that you versus you is going to be able to become the best version of yourself? The reason why, guys, I tell you, you have to find the inner you. You have to become the better version of yourself, because guess what, guys? It's not just about you, because when you become better, when I became better, I impacted everybody around me. I made everybody around me better. So it's not just about me. I know I'm saying you versus you, but it's just not about me. I'm saying you versus you because you have to be better, because you have to be better for everybody that's around you. So I can honestly look at my life right now, and everybody that's around me has gotten better. Anybody that's associated with me has gotten better. My family, anybody that's around me, like on a consistent basis, you have gotten better because of the value that I try to bring and the value that I try to add. Whether you listen to what I say or not, I'm trying to make people better around me. When it comes to real estate, when I think about all the deals that I have done, all the properties that I have closed, think about it, guys. A lot of people was associated on the other side of those transactions that, made a profit, maybe got a new investment property. A seller maybe had gotten rid of a property they've been trying to get rid of. An attorney got paid. A real estate agent got paid. A title insurance got paid. An appraiser got paid. You see what I'm saying? Like, one transaction makes everybody better. It blesses everybody. And your life can be the same way. What is it that you're waiting on? Or what is your why and your purpose that you haven't fulfilled yet, and you're not making others around you better because of that blessing being on hold, because of you not understanding that you are waiting on you. You are your kryptonite. So guys, I hope that this episode really, really, really hit home. I wanted to go in really, really hard on this episode because episode 1, it was about me introing myself. I gave my grandfather a shout out. God bless the dead. I gave my sister Deanna Britt a shout out. God bless the dead. And I wanted to start there because I wanted to talk about the people who impacted this whole podcast and impacted my business. I wanted to get that out of the way. But episode 2 and maybe even episode 3, I'm going mental, guys. We're going to get into, starting the businesses. We're going to get into all that. We're going to get into the interviews and all that. All that's coming. But I would be doing you a disservice again if I didn't go where I went today. So I really pray that you took this. You got some fruit from it. I pray that the seed that I planted today, I pray that it waters your harvest and it blossoms into a full-grown tree. I pray that you get something from this, and I hope that it added value. Episode 3 coming. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to the podcast, the B Podcast, Business Elite Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Will Galloway, and I'm grateful to be here, and thank y'all for listening. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Business Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, share and subscribe, or visit us on the web at www.businesseliteentrepreneurs.com. We'll see you on the next episode.